Hi guys, welcome to Jamie's Christmas. Over the last few years, I've been absolutely inundated with letters and emails about some of the horror stories that happens to you guys every year when it comes up to Christmas. Loads of stress, mother-in-law coming round, you name it, some awful things have been happening. So what I thought I'd do is give you all my top tips and recipes and a bit of love and support about what I do every year, my top recipes. And you know what? They're not bad, they're pretty good. So, happy Christmas, and I hope you get some better presents than I did. Thanks, Nan. Right, before we even think about doing any cooking, there's a couple of really basic, boring, menial things that will make such a difference. Now, I've been around hundreds of people's houses around the country, around the world, and if you look at people's kitchens, you know, they're generally some of the most loved and used parts of the house. But as soon as a kitchen becomes friendly and homely, that means clutter, right? So, I mean, like, all right, this is slightly messy, mine, but this is genuinely my clutter in my kitchen, right? And under surfaces everywhere, we've got books, radios, spices, sort of random bowls, pestle and mortars, condiments, oils, booze, you know, the urn that your blooming Nan bought you that you never use, it just collects a few pound coins and notes and stuff, you know, mixers, kettles, all your kind of cereal stuff, toasters, right? All of this is just going to make cooking a real mess. For you to get the best possible chance to do the best possible dinner, right, let's start with the clutter. I'm not saying chuck it out or throw it out or upset your Nan or whatever who's given you some nice little bits and trinkets, right? For 2-3 days of Christmas, to give you a clear head, right, let's get all of this clutter. Let's put it under the stairs, in the garage, in the basement. Let's lose it. Let's just get rid of it. Right, so that's all the clutter gone, but what do we need, right? So you might have a load of gear that you need to sort through, or, you know, loads of people have gaps in their kitchens, things they really, really do need. So I'd like to tell you what I think makes it easier, stuff that is going to be worth buying and you'll keep for a long time and use a lot. So you don't actually need a lot of stuff to pull off, you know, cooking Christmas dinner. For instance, here, you've got some sort of question marks. You've got these kind of roasting trays here, which are non-stick, which are about, you know, these are kind of posh cheap ones. They're £6, but you can get them for £3. And they're so cheap, you can almost use them 3 or 4 times and chuck them away. Personally, I think that's a bit of a false economy. You know, to go for something traditional like that, you know, a nice big aluminium tray that will last a whole lifetime. As it gets older, it almost gets better. And something that is like as big as you possibly can get into your oven. So measure your oven and go out and buy something that's nice and big for it. And then you've got kind of dark aluminium versions of that. And then you've got the kind of posh, heavy, good quality non-stick versions as well. So go and get yourself a couple of roasting trays. See which ones you can stretch to. If you can get the good ones, superb. I'm going to go for these 2 today. So we'll get rid of those. Now, so we've got our roasting trays. And also keep them in, you know, keep them in the oven when you're not using them. So that's them out of the way. OK. Very healthy. You're going to use it loads. The steamer, the stack steamer. Basically, they come with little inserts like this. Brilliant for Christmas Day because, as you can see, it takes up 1 gas unit. So even if you've got a small 4-burner, you know, 1 gas unit will boil 1 thing, 2 thing, 3 thing, 4 thing. That's 4 veg out of 1 gas. So space-wise, that's brilliant. Health-wise, you know, people using steamers for fish, for vegetables, all that sort of things. You can even do your Christmas pudding in the bottom. So a nice stack of steamers is really good. And if you're looking on a budget, you can get a normal pan or frying pan that you've got and go down to a Chinatown or something like that and buy the bamboo ones, and they're like 99p per sleeve, and you can keep building them up, and they're very good. You've got to have 1 big pot, every household, for doing your curries, for doing your soups, for parboiling, like, you know, 15 people's worth of roast potatoes and parsnips. You know, you don't want to keep boiling up loads of little pans. Get a nice big one with a lid. A couple of saucepans. Definitely need a sieve for your gravy, a colander, and I really like these. These are fantastic. It's like a little nest of stainless steel bowls, right, which you can use for all sorts of jobs. It's great that they all fit into each other, so it doesn't really take too much space. They're quite light and thin, which means they're quite cheap. You can get them from Cargo, IKEA, you know, John Lewis, BHS, all those kind of stores, and they're good. Every kitchen should have a set of these. Makes life a bit easier. On kind of like utensils, for Christmas, you know, the tongs, a couple of tongs, big ones and some medium ones, are brilliant, really, really good. Couldn't big them up enough. Some flat sort of fish knives are really good. Spoons and ladles. Get one of these sort of microplane graters. They're really, really good for so many things. Grating garlic or nutmeg or grating vegetables, cheeses, stuff like that. You know, lemon zest, orange zest, really good. I'll be using that. Wooden spoons, spatulas, speed peeler. They're the ones to go for, about £2. Very, very good. And then the important bit. Yes, the carving knife. Get a fork, a good carving knife. Don't muck about with cheap, bendy rubbish. You want good quality. This is a Wusthof. You can go Victorinox, F-Dick. You can go serrated or straight. I prefer the straight myself, but serrateds are quite good as well. But get a good one, and then you'll always have something for carving your bits and pieces. Fork, OK? Flavour-wise, I've got the pestle and mortar, which I love dearly, which is fantastic for bashing up your spices, herbs, all sorts of things. And I've got my little invention, the flavour shaker, which is really good for the sort of dressings, marinades, rubs, anything like that. So think of all those lovely Christmas spices and stuff like that. So they're really good for the flavour side of things. I think now we've talked enough. Let's get on to cooking the turkey. Right, look at this beautiful turkey. Now, let's talk turkey for a second. If there's ever a time to trade up with the quality of your turkey, Christmas has to be the time to do it. And what I mean by that is if you normally have sort of like a battery turkey, which obviously I'm not that inspired by, try and trade up and get yourself a free-range turkey. If you normally have a free-range turkey, get yourself a nice organic turkey. Of course, free-range organic turkeys are going to taste better, you know, they're reared nicely and they're fed good, proper food, and I just think that the proof is in the cooking with turkey, definitely. With the good turkeys, you know, there's not that many of them around, really. Good butchers and good supermarkets and farmers markets, of course, will have them. But, for instance, at the supermarket, you want to order them early doors because they won't have that many of the good ones, right? I've got a Norfolk Bronze here, which is a beautiful organic turkey. It's about £8–9 a kilo. This is a 6 kilo bird, so this is kind of 50–60 quid's worth of turkey. It's not massive. This is sort of 6 kilos, and they go up to about 12–14 kilos. So this is sort of towards the sort of middle, smaller turkey. And my personal preference is, because don't forget, turkey is one of the hardest meats of all meats to cook. Why? Because you have this, like, thin, skinny bit here, a fat bit down here, and then you've got these podgy old legs here. I mean, from a geographical meat point of view, it's a nightmare to cook. So to have a smaller bird, 6, 7, 8 kilos, for me, is much better than having a 12–14 kilo, because it will probably end up being dry and isn't as easy to cook. So, what am I going to do to this turkey? First and foremost, I'm going to get the wings off and cut them off like that. I'll use that as part of my trivet. And then I'm going to and you use the heel of your knife here, or get your butcher to it, probably even better. Just snap it, cut it off. You get some good flavour out of that. That's basically like a chicken wing. Also, it's going to hold the turkey off of the ground, so it's, you know, roasting all the way around instead of sort of frying and roasting. Secondly, wishbone. If you want less stress tomorrow and a good, easy carve on the turkey, you must ask specifically your butcher, say, big boy, take the wishbone out of my turkey. He can do it in 40 seconds, right? It will take you 5 minutes of mucking about with blooming marigolds on and everything. Get the wishbone out, and then you'll just be able to carve beautifully and sort of like vertically straight down, and it'll be really nice. Also, this is a 6 kilo bird, and that'll serve quite easily sort of 8 to 10 people, easy peasy. Now I've got 7 adults tomorrow and I've got about 3 or 4 kids, okay? So that's going to be perfect. If you're starting to, you know, do more people than that, then I would suggest getting 2 6 kilo birds as opposed to 1 massive one. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. Go for it. But get that wishbone out. Now what I want to do is give you the most incredible way to flavour the turkey, to make it the best turkey you've ever done. So what I want to do is I want to just see there, I'm just putting my finger under the skin here, right? And that's dead easy. I remember as a kid walking into the pub when Mum would be preparing our turkey, and oh my Lord, I mean, it looked like a horror show. There's Mum with her arms, you know, elbow deep up the backside of a turkey, and I'm like, what's all that about? That's gross, that's disgusting. And actually, God bless her, you know, there's no way to be sort of polite about flavour, really. I think, like, with a turkey, like, you just got to get your hand in there. And what I'm doing, you see I'm using a spatula here. What I'm doing is I've just put my finger under the skin, and then I've put the spatula under, and you can see how easy that is. I'm separating the skin from the meat. And this is a flipping brilliant way to make... I'm going to get some butter in there. And imagine roasting a turkey and the skin going crispy, and underneath it the butter's melting, and maybe put a bit of nutmeg or salt and stuff in there. That's going to flavour the meat in the most delicious way. And you can see this spatula sort of bends around all the contours of the breast, so that's a real good one. So I've separated that, so that's a good one. Also, I'm using a plastic board because obviously chicken, turkey, poultry, salmonella, so we've got to be clean. Now, when I was in America a few years ago, I was blown away by the brilliant turkeys the Jewish people were cooking, right? And they were salting their turkeys in brine, or rubbing it really heavily with sea salt and leaving it overnight, and then patting it dry and roasting it. It was some of the best turkeys I've ever eaten. So what I'm going to do, because it's like Christmas Eve, right, we should be doing this now, tonight. So we've separated the skin. I'm going to season the turkey really generously with salt, inside and out, and you'll see that repay you in lovely chewiness of the meat and incredible crispy skin. Okay, now the other thing I'm going to do is I've got a pack of butter here, which has got to sort of room temperature, so it's kind of quite, yeah, it's quite mushy. What I want to do is I'm going to season that butter with a good pinch of salt. We want seasoning going into the turkey. I'm thinking sort of Christmas time, so nutmeg is a really, really good one. At this stage, you can be quite generous, about half a nutmeg, I reckon. Good old English sort of spice, this one. We can have a little bit of pepper, and I tell you what, even a little bit of orange zest through this will be absolutely brilliant, and it'll just be very, very subtle. And what I'm going to do is just stir it up, or mash it up, and of course you can kind of, you know, put chopped rosemary through it, or, you know, truffle oil I've even done before, which is quite nice. Real truffles, tiny bits of sliced up smoky bacon. But I think just a straight butter here is pretty nice. So my little tip here is get yourself a sandwich bag, right? And that basically acts like one of those piping bags. You can just grab the butter out of here, like that, put it inside out. You see, you can squeeze it into a corner. There's your corner. And I'm just going to cut the end off. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up that skin, and you see I'm squeezing the butter in under that breast. And the thing is, you just know it's going to be good. And as they're squeezing it, you can rub it down. Rub it down the side. You can see it. The thing is, common sense tells you that you just know that that's going to taste brilliant when it cooks. Because we've sort of opened it out from the front, the butter's really got nowhere to escape. So as it's cooking, you can imagine this butter's just going to sort of be melting away all the way down there, just sitting there, and it's going to be delicious. Any extra bits, you don't waste any. Just rub on the legs, and with any of that salt that's come off of it, just rub back on it again. And we put this in the fridge overnight, Christmas Eve, and in the morning, if there's any sort of like moisture or water that's come out, just dab it up with some kitchen paper, and that's brilliant. Now, what I like to do, just because I want to get ahead, is in this roasting tray, I just want to get a few peeled carrots, you know, some nice celery that you can just wash, and just cut it up kind of quite roughly. Now, this isn't to be eaten as vegetables. This is actually for a kind of trivet for the turkey. And also, it's to help make the most incredible gravy. And I'm just going to nick a few onions. Onions are good for the old gravy. You know what? I'm not even going to peel them. I'm just going to take the ends off, because I'm going to put it through a sieve, cut it into quarters. And that will hold the turkey off the ground so it roasts all over. Also, it'll be a brilliant sort of like, you know, fragrance to add to the gravy. And I'm just going to put this turkey on top like that. I'll cover it now. In the morning, I'll take it out of the fridge. If I want to put some stuffing inside, I will. If I want to put, you know, some herbs inside, I can. And I can literally maybe dab some bits of it with a bit of kitchen towel and bash it straight in the oven, and that will be the most incredible turkey ever. So I'm going to cover this in foil, because we'll be cooking it with foil on tomorrow. I get the wide stuff as well, because that's much more helpful. I'll tell you what I do is I just put a tiny bit of olive oil just over the skin, just so it sort of goes, you know, begins to start crisping and stuff like that underneath. So there you go. I'll just put that on top. And there we go. So that's all wrapped up. I can put that straight in the fridge, ready to be cooked first thing tomorrow. Look at that. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to do some pigs in blankets, which is a classic sort of British. I guess, you know, I've had them since I was 3 or 4 years old. I can remember my old dear wrapping chipolatas in beautiful smoked, you know, dry-cured bacon, and it was delicious. And she even does it for, like, you know, Sunday roast if we have chicken sometimes. But it's quite nice to get it done, right, another job done. And also I've got a couple of little techniques as to sort of making it, you know, extra special. So we want about 1 or 2 per person. Probably one's probably enough, to be honest. What I want to do is introduce a little bit more flavour. We've got the sausages here, which is pork. We've got the smoked streaky bacon, which is pork. Well, one of their best friends in the herb world has got to be sage. So I've got some lovely sage. I got it from my garden, and sage is great because it's kind of there all year round. But you can get this from the supermarkets now as well, and you can especially get it from farmers markets and stuff like that. Just give it a wash. And at this time of year, when it's quite cold, a good tip for any sort of hardy herb is to wash it in warm water for about 10, 15 seconds. Now, if you imagine like a pack of butter when it's really firm, you know, that's what the oils, the natural oils, which is the flavour and the goodness in this, that's what it's like now, this time of year. So obviously in the summertime, when it's hot, everything smells and tastes so much better. And it's a little tip that one of my friends gave me, and it works really well. So wash it in warm water, which I've done to this. And then what I'm going to do is just get a rasher of bacon. And like proper dry cured bacon is coming back in fashion. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. We put up with imported rubbish for so many years. What I'm doing is just going to lay it like this on a board. I just do it on my surface because it's all wood. And you can see just by loosely rubbing like a chopping knife down, it sort of thins out and fattens out. And then what I can do is I can get my sage here, and I want some olive oil in here. Now, the reason it's important to put olive oil in there is that if you just put dry herbs on anything, chicken, fish, you name it, it's going to taste of nothing. There will be no transmitting of flavour. So by dressing the sage in oil, you will not believe the flavour. I mean, crispy sage in oil and smoky bacon and a good old chipolata is a great combo. And obviously, visually, look at that, that's beautiful. When that starts to crispen up and roast with the lovely bacon fat and the sausage starts to cook, it will be so good, absolutely beautiful. So, I mean, I like these. I mean, I know normally they pinch the chipolatas in half and do like little small ones, but I think actually a nice chipolata, good dry cured smoky bacon, none of your guests will ever have seen these before, I'm pretty much sure, and you know, at the end of the day, it's one more job done. And all you have to do tomorrow is roast these in the oven along with all the potatoes and parsnips and stuff like that for the, you know, in the last half an hour while the meat's resting and you're starting to get everything together. So good job done, and people will love that. I'll probably just drizzle the tops with a little oil and just give it a pat, and that way you know it's going to roast up all equally and nice. And of course, when they are cooked, you know, you can drain all the fat off of it and put them on some kitchen paper if you're worried about it being too fatty. But that will be beautiful, and it is Christmas. Cover it in a bit of foil again. Nice one. Right, okay, so we're going to be doing vegetables with my roast dinner, of course. Yeah, we've got the turkey, we've got, you know, the pigs in blankets, we've got roast potatoes, the best ones, and parsnips. I'm going to do the smashed smashed swede, which is one of my favourites. But for some sort of cleaner, lighter vegetables, this is what I really think is brilliant. Getting a steamer and the racks, right? It means on one gas stove I can get 4 veg done, right? And if you just unload these, it's really simple the way to think about it. Obviously, the most amount of heat is here at the bottom with the carrots. The thing that needs the second most amount of heat is the Brussels. Then I've got the sugar snap peas and the sprouting broccoli, okay? Now, basically, all of these, like the Brussels are just peeled, carrots have just been scraped. These are as they come out the pack, and the broccoli, I just take the ends off and run my knife down the middle of the stalk there, just to sort of, you know, let the heat get in there so it's nice and quick, and that will cook in the same time as that lovely little bud. Now, instead of just doing lovely vegetables, like, you know, there's loads of people that cook veggies and they're lovely, but I want every single veg, everything on the table for your Christmas, I want it to taste incredible, right? So what I want to big up is the flavoured butters, right? So before you even get on to, like, unhealthy, loads of butter, X, Y, and Z, for that amount of broccoli, I'm only going to need a nice heaped tablespoon of butter to be tossed around with it to give it flavour. Now, you can do it manually by hand, which will involve you chopping up stuff, putting it into a bowl and scrunching in the butter. Not the hardest thing in the world, to be honest. But for speed, for getting the job done, I'm going to do it in a Magimix. Dead simple. First one, I'm going to flavour the sprouting broccoli with rosemary and anchovy. It might sound like a bit of an unconventional flavour, but believe you me, it's a wicked combo. And I'm not going to say, like, for people that don't like anchovy, don't be scared. It's not like, oh, anchovy fish or whatever. We're going to use it sort of cleverly, like you would fish sauce in a stir fry or something like that, just to give a beautiful sort of salty flavour. So what I want to do is get some anchovy. Now, try and get some good anchovies. These are good ones. They're Ortiz. They're the best ones that you can get in the supermarkets, or you can get the half-decent jars with them in oil. I'm just going to crack this open, and I'm going to pour this in to the Magimix. I've washed this rosemary in a little bit of warm water for about 15 seconds, so that's going to get the flavour out. I just want a little small handful of rosemary sprees, or no, rosemary leaves. Just get that in there. And if you want, you can get a speed peeler and just put a little bit of lemon zest, probably about half a lemon, in with the anchovy and the rosemary. Put the lid on, wazz it up. While that's wazzing it up, throw your butter in. Let it mix. Right, there you go. 12 seconds, it's done, right? Lemon, rosemary, tiny bit of anchovy, and obviously the butter. That is fantastic with any of the broccoli family, from normal broccoli, sprouting broccoli, cauliflower, green beans, runner beans, asparagus, with scallops, little white fish under the grill, you know, a little fillet of fish. It's a fantastically flexible butter, and even though it's anchovy, lemon and rosemary, put a little knob of that on a pork chop. In a hot oven or under a grill, you know, roast lamb, really, really good. So all I'm going to do now is just get a little bit of greaseproof paper, take the blade out, and that's one butter made in about 1 minute. So it's really not a pain at all. Get as much of it out as you can. Sort of smear it into a long shape. Don't have to be accurate. And then this bit's dead simple. Fold it over, almost like a cigar, and then you sort of just twist it. There you go, lovely flavoured butter, and he is going to be going Mr. Broccoli here. Okay, so for the next one, I've got some nice parsley. It's been washed. The thick stalks here tear off. You don't need those, but the little thin stalks here, don't worry about it. Get that straight in to the food processor. I just want 2 or 3 garlic cloves. That goes in with the parsley. Nice pinch of salt, little pinch of pepper, and that should be all I need for that one. It's just simple. It's almost like what you'd have for a garlic bread or something like that. Once it's wazzed all that up, you can just put the juice of a lemon in here, which would be nice. We've used the zest on the anchovy one, which is nice and fragrant and subtle. We'll have the juice in here. Wazz that up. And then I'll get my pack of butter straight in. Never want to really mix it up too much because obviously, you know, you don't want to split the butter. Back over here. This time, just because there's a little bit of water in there, it sort of separates a little bit. Get all of that in there like that. It's a nice colour. Make it into a little bit of a tube. Roll it up, and again, dead simple. Full of flavour. So a lovely lemony parsley and garlic butter to go with the sugar snap peas. What I want you to start thinking is, like, this is so simple. Like, tomorrow when you actually steam these, all you got to do is pull them out of the fridge, put a little knob in there, toss it through, and that's going to taste completely different to that, and that. You know, going to get really identified different flavours with each veg, which is going to be, you know, that's what good cooking's all about, really. Brussels. People have got some real things about Brussels sprouts. So I'm going to do a butter that I love. Right, just get some pancetta or smoky, streaky bacon, put it into a pan, and I want you to fry them off until they're nice and crisp. And then when they're cooled down, it'll smash up into little pieces. And I'm also going to put some chestnuts in here when the bacon started to crispen up. So I'm going to do like a smoky bacon and chestnut and sage butter to go with the Brussels sprouts, and I think that is going to be awesome, really, really good. So while that's frying, I'm going to do the carrot one. Again, carrots, really simple, really loves thyme. Carrots and thyme, a great combo. I've given them a wash in hot water for 20 seconds, and so all the flavours come out. And I'm just taking the lovely thyme leaves off of the stalks. We don't want the stalks, we just want the lovely soft leaves. And that, with a tiny pinch of cumin. Now, I know cumin is sort of considered to be sort of like, you know, an Indian spice, but a tiny, tiny pinch, even a bit smaller than that, actually. Get rid of something like that much, with 8-10 portions of carrots. That will bring out some incredible flavours in the carrots. Don't ask me why, it's a great combo. Pack of butter goes in, and get an orange, and put some orange zest in here. Orange and carrots with a little bit of cumin and some thyme is absolutely brilliant. There you go. Where's that up? So there's that one done, dead quick. You can see over here on the pan, all the fat's starting to cook out of this smoky bacon now, and we don't want that to cook anymore, really. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw in this the chestnuts. To sort of, they're vac pack ones, right? They're quite nice. Do you know what the best chestnuts in the world are? The ones that those tramps sell on the little charcoal fires. If you can get those, there's nothing wrong with them. Buy them, and they'll, you know, you can peel them all, and they'll be delicious. If not, buy yourself some chestnuts, give it a nick with a Stanley knife, pop them over the fire. But these are very convenient, very quick, and you can see they're soaking up all the juice from the smoky bacon now. And then some sage. Again, sage, really, really good. Really nice with Brussels sprouts. So you can see I've got quite a lot in there, just torn up. And I'm just going to toss this all around now. You only want to really fry the sage for about a minute. You don't want to burn it, you want it to be crisp. And when all that cools down, I should literally be able to just snap it all with my fingers and toss it through the warm butter. So this is perfect now. Turn the heat off. That can cool down in there. Give it 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I'll just toss it through that butter. Doing these flavoured butters, you might be thinking, has the potential to be a palaver, but it's so damn quick. It's so quick. And the thing is, once you've got, you know, forget tomorrow, forget Christmas Day when you can put a nice little knob with your vegetables. Think about the 2 or 3 months that you've got these sitting in your freezer, just gagging to be used on something else, you know? Here's the carrot one. All of these flavoured butters can be used, you know, on various meat, vegetable, you know, fish combinations. So it's not a waste of time. If anything, it saves a whole bunch of time. There's the one for the carrot. And that's a really good one. That'll be beautiful with the carrots. Right, this should be ready now. Just feel, yeah, that's cooled down now. So what I want to do is, the truth is, with the Brussels, you can just steam them, boil them. When they're nice and cooked, you could have done that tomorrow, you know, and fry off the pancetta or smoky bacon, the sage and the chestnuts, and then just throw them all in and toss them around and sort of, you know, like the Italians when they cook it, you know, vegetables, you know, kind of turn the heat down and just sort of turn it over and cook it for like 15, like keep it warm almost for 15, 20 minutes. But obviously we're talking about good flavour and saving time, and with that in mind, we're going to turn it into a butter as well. And what I'm just going to do is literally get the butter, I'm going to smear it onto the greaseproof paper, like this. I'm just going to almost just like pour it on. Keep it kind of chunky, because that'll break up tomorrow. And then you can almost just squeeze it up. Just treat it like, you know, disrespect it, you know, sort of push it around a little bit and just sort of just scrunch it about a little bit. And already I've just scrunched it, and it's sort of, you can see it's just encased in the middle, like that. And then just roll it up, bring in the sides, like with all the others. And there you go. Beautiful, crispy sage, chestnut, and smoky bacon butter. Beautiful. And that, again, tossed with, you know, anything sort of like, you know, broccoli, tossed, you know, even with some little cubes of butternut squash or some pumpkin and roasted slowly, you know, 180 would be delicious. So there we go. We've got 4 vegetables with 4 flavoured butters, and that is going to knock their socks off. So as it's quite cold outside, I'm going to keep this veg outside. I'm going to put the lid on top. No creepy crawlies, no animals can get into that. It's really cold outside, as cold as my fridge, and I'll save a bit of space. So I'll just pop that over there for the moment. I'll put it outside later. Now these butters obviously need to go in the fridge until tomorrow. And then when we get them tomorrow, we can slice them up, which kind of pre-portions the butter, and then we can put them in the freezer, and they'll stay happily in the freezer for a matter of months. And every time you want to use one, just pull open the paper, take a pre-sliced slice, and bosh it on a bit of this, that, or the other. Brilliant. Flavoured butters is gonna absolutely make the vegetables beautiful. So, on to the next job. Right, so I'm going to do stuffing. Stuffing is really, really important for us guys at Christmas. Well, I'm going to start to cry in a minute. Why is stuffing important? I don't know. I think it's like, it's always one of those bits on the side, isn't it? The bits everyone looks forward to. I mean, I think, you know, you've got the white breast meat of the turkey, and then you've got the brown meat, which is a bit more tasty, and then you've got that stuffing. I mean, the top bit used to go crispy and the bottom bit used to soak up all the juice from the turkey. That's if it was cooked inside the turkey. And everyone argues about it, this flavour or that flavour. You know, do you do little like balls, or do you do it in a terrine mould and or in a tray and bake it separately, or do you cook it in the neck of the turkey and the cavity of turkey? Oh my giddy aunt, do you know what I mean? So this is the way I do it, and the way that I do it is based on, you know, I think the whole thing about, you know, some people get a bit out of control on stuffing sometimes, and they almost treat it like a dustbin, and they chuck all sorts of things in there just to be sort of a bit different. But I'm going to put a few tweaks on there, and I'm going to cook it the way I like to, which is a mixture of combinations of cooking half of it inside the turkey so it soaks up all those beautiful flavours, and then I'll do a little bit on the side, maybe outside, just to sort of get crispy and lovely, and in that way you keep everyone happy. So one of the most important parts, I reckon, of getting a stuffing good is getting some nice onions. I've got red onions. You can use red onions or white onions. Finely slice them. Of course, you can do this in a processor or something like that to make life a bit easier. I'm going to sort of slowly-ish fry this, not in oil. I'm going to do a mixture of butter and oil. My mum always used to say, and the chefs at my dad's restaurant, when they used to do like Sunday roasts, like to do the really good stuffing, you know, you use sort of clarified butter, but butter and oil sort of is just as good. And then you get the flavour. So a little twig of oil. And then let's turn that down a little bit. Butter. Don't be scared. You want a good ounce and a bit of butter in there. Let's chop up this other onion. I'm doing it quick because if not, I'll start to cry. Because I always did, and I still do. And you know what? Doesn't matter how many onions you chop up, you still always cry. Look at that, it's mixing up nicely. Now, by mixing the oil and the butter, if you've ever used butter in cooking before, you know, a French like beurre noisette, a brown butter, if you put straight butter in a hot pan, after about 45 seconds to a minute, depending on how hot the pan is, it will go black. Well, it'll go brown before it goes black, but it'll end up being black. And that's because the way the milky part of the butter burns at quite a low temperature. So by putting a bit of oil in and the butter, you just make it possible to sort of fry things like the butter in it for a longer amount of time, and it'll be delicious. Now, the best thing you can do here is take your time. Slowly turn the gas right down. 15, 16, 17 minutes of slowly frying the onions. What happens? It will go incredibly sweet, and that will give your stuffing the edge on everyone else's. Everyone else will be frying it really quick, 4 or 5 minutes, slowly, get that flavour. I like to put just a couple of rashers of smoked bacon in the base. Why? Because I like it. I don't know, I've got a thing about smoked bacon. I just think it gives a nice base along with the onions to the stuffing. Now, let's think about stuffing. What is a stuffing? Well, the main parts of stuffing for me is you get good quality pork for the stuffing that I like, pork stuffing. I like to ask the butcher to find me a nice bit of pork, like the shoulder or even the belly. You know, you want a nice amount of fat on there, and you want it from a good quality pig, free-range organic, right? Then I ask the butcher to mince it for me. I've got 500-600 grams there. Visually, I want about half as much visually of breadcrumbs. I've got 2 small red onions, or 1 big red onion, and I want 1 egg yolk. So, just going to crack an egg, lose the egg white for another day, and we'll put this egg yolk in there. What we've got there is essentially, as far as the kind of cooking part of it, onions, breadcrumbs, egg yolk and the meat, that is essentially the same as, you know, old nonnas or mummas meatballs. She might have some half veal, half pork or something like that. You know, it's the same sort of scenario as a good quality beef burger or homemade beef burger. So it's kind of a force meat, really. That's what the French call it, a force meat. That's kind of the basics. What I want to do, well, I think where it gets exciting is where you can start introducing flavour, spices, you know, a bit of smoky bacon in with the onion at the beginning. Now, I think the temptation, possibly, is to sort of go doolally. For me at Christmas, I love the idea of our winter herbs. Sage is a classic, great with turkey, great with pork, brilliant with butter, brilliant with onions. I mean, it's got Christmas written all over it. But rosemary as well is brilliant, and thyme. They're all growing in the garden, and you can buy them from all the markets and supermarkets. So for this stuffing, I'm going to use all three of them because I want to. I think herbs are a fantastic way to put your identity on food. It's really healthy, it's good for you, and as you know, I think you've either got to be subtle or confident. And I know it sounds a bit sort of contradictory, you know, but I think, you know, don't go putting a little bit of anything on because you will never get it. If it's fish, be gentle, you know, but not too much. But, you know, also at the same time, be brave. So I've got a big handful of sage there. You know, and again, I suppose if you're using fresh ones, don't use dried ones, for crying out loud. It's just, what people don't understand is, with the exception of really of oregano, which is interesting and more interesting when it's dried herbs are for raving idiots, plonkers, nutcases, people that like to have stale old things hanging about their cupboards that never get used for a million years. So this is all about fresh herbs. Buy it from the supermarkets, get a nice big bunch from the farmer's market, well, whatever you do, don't get a packet of dried herbs and sort of just like shaking this blimmin' old sawdust that tastes of nothing, right? So you can see in the pan now with the onions, right, it's slowly, you can see they're already like dead soft, absolutely soft, but we've got a lovely little bit of colour there, right? And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a little pinch of salt in there, right? Why? Just to sort of get the seasoning in there as opposed to trying to correct it all at the end, really. Delicious. Give a pan a shake, get it all in one level. So let's put that on the tray and we start to get a really good idea of the sort of ratios. It's almost like big lump, half as big lump, half as big lump again. You know, it's pretty simple to work out, even if you're doing twice as much. Now, I always think for a good stuffing, it's wicked to sort of get a sort of soury fruit element going. On my website, we have some forums and stuff like that when people talk about, you know, stuffings and debate food things. And, you know, sometimes you see people talking about putting dried mango and pineapple in like stuffings, and it all gets a little bit tropical. It's almost like a blooming muesli breakfast or something. It's not good. I think apricots and dried cranberries are brilliant. I haven't got any, but dried cranberries are very good. But apricots are really, really nice. Just slice them up. And actually, if you did this in the food processor, dead quick. Dead quick. So some chopped apricots. There you go. And again, you can see literally how much of that. Now with the onions here, they're just starting to get some colour now, which is good. I'm using a handful of these backpack chestnuts again, and if I could, I'd use the fresh ones, but I haven't got them on me. But the fresh ones are brilliant, but they are a palaver. Right, so fry the chestnuts in there for about a minute, 2 minutes. Now what I'm going to do is take that off the heat in a couple of minutes and let it cool right down. I mean cool right down to fridge temperature. And then I can mix it with my pork, my egg yolk, my breadcrumbs, the apricots and the herbs, season it up, and that will be the most delicious stuffing. It will be absolutely brilliant. But you must cool it right down, otherwise hot things and raw meat starts to go a little bit skeefo, a little bit dodgy. The only way you can ever put hot things with raw meat is if you're going to mix it up and cook it straight away, and then you're all right. So let's not forget that. And obviously we're preparing for tomorrow, so we're going to cool that down. Now let's just try. Lovely. Really intense, beautiful onions, chestnuts. I'm going to take that out, put it outside, let it get cool. Now, while I'm waiting for that to cool down, what I'm going to do is make some fresh cranberry sauce. So, put a pan on the heat, get it on full whack, frozen cranberries, Brilliant, very, very good. So I've got about 500 grams of cranberries here, and I've got some sugar. I want about 130 grams of sugar. The only real sort of chemistry behind the recipe is you want enough sugar to take the complete violent sourness out of these cranberries. So it's about 1 to 5. 100 grams of sugar to 500 grams of cranberries normally works, but it does depend on how sour they are. So get your pan warm. I'm going to measure. Let's measure 200 grams, let's do half of that and a bit more. There you go. It's about 120 grams of sugar in there. All right, you can see that it's melting straight away. In with your cranberries, 500 grams. No mucking about. I'm going to use a little bit of port. Good old port. I knew it would come in handy for something. Just a little half, you know, a couple of shots of port. You know, a very small wine glass. Now, that's sort of your basic cranberry sort of base. But what I want to do is I want to just put a little bit of flavour in there. So, like, thinking about Christmas, thinking about the things that I like, sugar, cranberry, sweet, sour. I've got some port in there. Port is a kind of Christmassy flavour, but you just got to put some cinnamon in there. So 1 stick of cinnamon, just split in half, shake off the dusty bits, pop that right in the bottom. So the idea of putting the cinnamon sticks in is that you put it in there, and as the sauce is cooking away, you keep tasting it, and when it's kind of just got enough of that cinnamon flavour, you pull them out. Job done. Of course, if you haven't got cinnamon, you can use sticks, you can use the powder. Start off with sort of half a teaspoon level, right? And that will give, you know, for 500 grams of cranberries, should be beautiful. And then you can add a little bit more if you think it needs it. Now, another sort of Christmassy flavour, for me, is good old orange. And all I want to do is just zest it. Finely zest it. You don't want any of that white pith. The white pith is absolutely bitter as you like. See here, see, that's nice orange zest. That will be tasty, that will be fragrant, that will be delicious no matter what you put it on. If you start getting on to sort of the white pith, it will start getting bitter and horrible, and we don't want that. So get the zest off of your orange, pop that in to your sauce, give it a gentle little move around. You don't want to, the cranberries will break up. You don't want to break them up too much, otherwise it's just like an orange mush. You want a little bit of shape to it. Also, you don't want to smash up the cinnamon stick either. So just gently, gently, it'll do it all for you. Now, what you can do is use a little bit of this orange zest as well, because it's all got Christmas written all over it. Lovely. Gently stir it. You don't want to smash up the cranberries because it will just be like a pink mush, and you don't want to smash up the cinnamon stick because it will taste like medicine, right? So, and you'll have bits in it. It's always a good sign when it starts to hold its bubbles like that, because you know it's starting to sort of like jamify. Let's have a little taste. See how we're doing. Oh, it's a good one. Those frozen cranberries are really, really good. Port, cinnamon, orange zest, sweet, sour. 5 more minutes. Let's go and check my onions. Yeah, they're cold. At this time of year, the outside is colder than the fridge anyway. So what I want to do is literally put that here. And I think just to put everything beside each other, you start to get a really good idea of how everything, you know, the combinations, you know. You've got 1 large part of pork meat and an egg yolk. You've got 3/4 as much onions and the chestnuts. You've got half as much visually in breadcrumbs. These are proper nice, you know, leftover good bread, whizzed up. So, and good fresh herbs and the apricots. All you've got to do now is just mix it up like this. Scrunch it in between your hands, in between your fingers. Like, kids love doing all this stuff as well. Just make sure they wash their hands properly afterwards. And there you go. And the lovely thing about Christmas as well is that if you did too much, You know that on Boxing Day, when all the cheeses and the cold hams and turkey, leftover turkey and that comes out, you know, people love cold stuffing. It's good to really mish-mash it between your fingers. It's good to have, you know, a few chunks of chestnuts because people like to be reminded what the hell they're eating. Sometimes if it's all mushy, it becomes a mush. What I'll also do is lightly season it a little bit more. I want to get my fingers are dirty, so I'll use a spoon. A little bit more salt. That's Maldon sea salt, so of course it's a little bit more subtle than your normal table salt, so it looks like more, but it's actually not. Pepper. If it's ever too thick and not coming together like this, just add a tiny little bit of water and or a little bit more egg yolk, and that will come together straight away. But that is a good one. That's a winner. And what I'll do is I'll put this in some tin foil, and that will be another really good job done. And what we got here, you know, we didn't rush the onions. You know, we got chestnuts and sage, smoky bacon, oil, but you know, it's going to taste brilliant. And the fact that I don't have to worry about trying to make anything taste brilliant tomorrow, really, tomorrow's about cooking. So, pretty pleased with that. There you go, look. Stuffing done, we know it's going to taste good. Let's have a look at this cranberry sauce for a second. Now, I want to take that off the heat now, because I know that looks pretty perfect. You know it looks good when you got a good shine on it, you know, almost jamified, right? Also, the sort of ratio of sort of liquid to cranberries is kind of quite nice. Just have a look at that, right? When I move the spoon away, you know, it slowly has the moisture coming out. It doesn't just sort of rush out, right? So that's pretty good. I've reduced the liquid by about you know, I've reduced it from sort of that to sort of that now. So let's have a little taste. This is the time to sort of add a bit more sugar if it's still really sour. But you can get away with a little bit of sour because obviously that's quite nice. You've got to get the balance right, but that's personal taste. I think that's perfect. Yep. And also the cinnamon is already fine. So let's lose those sticks now. Here they are. Lovely. Tell you what I'm going to do. Can't even be bothered to wash that one up. I'm going to keep that with a lid on at room temperature. Nothing wrong with that. Put that over here for tomorrow, or you can keep it outside with a lid on. Stuffing goes in the fridge. 2 more jobs done. Right, the wonderful world of roasted veg. First and foremost, the roast potato. One of the most important things in culinary history. If you get the roast potato wrong, then you just got to give up and go home straight away. So I'm going to teach you the best way to roast potatoes in the whole wide world. Don't worry about the others. This is the way forward, OK? So I've got some nice potatoes, right? I've peeled them. I've cut them into my normal sort of roasty size, which is sort of... I've cut them into about that sort of size, OK? I've parboiled those in salted boiling water for about 5 minutes. While that's been parboiling, I've been peeling parsnips, another very important roasted vegetable. Roasted parsnips is absolutely delicious. And while we're talking about roasted vegetables, things like celeriac, which can be peeled, it's much like a sort of Swede shape, peeled and sort of chopped up into chunks, they can go in with the parsnips. Also Jerusalem artichokes, fantastic. Loads of people have never ever tried them before. Again, you can just give them, don't even have to peel them, give them a wash, and you throw them in after 5 minutes of the potatoes having a parboil, right? Throw them in for 5 minutes, and that's perfect parboiling time for beautiful, perfect roast spuds and parsnips. So while that's happening on, I want to go off on something totally different, the butternut squash. Or there's a squash called the onion squash or acorn squash. There's some really good squashes out there. This one happens to be all over the world, and it seems to be in all the supermarkets, farmers markets, and you know what, it's a really good product. It's such a tasty thing. Loads of people don't know how to use it, and my mum, who did sort of rock solid, really good roast Christmas dinners for years and years and years, I introduced this to her about 7 years ago, and it's now become part of the sort of famous Oliver roast dinner at Christmas. And it's dead simple. You buy one, you very carefully put a finger either side, knife in the middle, and you sort of go down, and carefully, without putting too much wobbly pressure, carefully you cut through it like that. Don't go putting loads of weight on it, otherwise you'll end up in hospital on Christmas Eve, right? Slowly, slowly, and they split. Now, inside them, we've got these seeds, which, yeah, you can roast up as peanuts and stuff like that, but we're just going to throw them away today. And I'm going to show you a way of roasting squash that will absolutely blow your guests away. They were like, what's that? Roasted squash. They'll eat it and they'll say, oh my God, what on earth, how do you do that? It's a matter of using a few secret little spices that for some reason seem to work with squash in a way that just makes them the most beautiful thing in the world. So cutting them up-wise, I'm just going to sort of hack these up like that, the two end bits, then cut this in half, and cut them in half again. Loads of people say to me, are you not going to take the skin off? You're not going to peel the skin? No, absolutely do not take... That skin, when it cooks, is so chewy and beautiful, you wouldn't want to lose it. And also, it takes ages to chop it off, so don't bother. So let's cut these into little boats and little chunks, nice and rustic. And I've seen the Italians flavour squash in this way, right, around the sort of October, November, December time of year to make fillings for raviolis and stuff like that. And I tasted it and I had to find out how to do it. And it's a special little combination, and it's dead simple. We've chopped the squash up. It's taken no time at all, right? I'm going to use another roasting tray to throw it into, right? And then onto flavouring it. Now, you could use a pestle and mortar, or I'm going to plug my little flavour shaker, which essentially will do the same thing, right? And what I want to do is get the sort of spices that are going to complement this bashed up. So, first of all, coriander seeds. Now, coriander seeds are obviously the seeds of the coriander plant, you know, the coriander you get in your stir-fries and all that lovely Asian cooking, right? The seeds, however, taste sort of a little bit more tea-like, a bit more frumpy, and you can get them everywhere and they're cheap. So just put like a tablespoon flat in there, right? Also going in there is chilli. Now, 1 or 2 little chilies. Now, obviously, around the world, these little darlings get hotter and milder, so you need to work out how hot or mild your ones are. These are pretty fiery, so 1.5 will do the trick. Now, I'm not after sort of like curry-like temperature. The most amazing thing that chili does with squash is if you could put a little bit in, it sort of just hums in the background and gives it the most incredible flavour. Also, I'm going to put a nice big pinch of salt in here. So coriander seed, a little bit of chilli, salt, right? Some pepper. Pepper goes in, and then you can put just a tiny bit of like cinnamon powder, a little pinch, or break up a little bit of cinnamon stick, just a little bit, right? And some nutmeg. So basically what you've got is a very subtle sort of mixture of really Christmassy sort of rustic Italian sort of spices. Coriander seed. Just grate that nutmeg in there. Just a little bit, quarter of a nutmeg. And then you put it in the flavour shaker, or you could do this in a pestle and mortar, by all means, right? And you just smash it up. Now, they're nearly done. While I'm smashing this up, what I can do is just put a little bit of olive oil in with the squash. Just enough to literally coat the squash. And then I'll crack this open. And in there is some nice smashed up spices, almost like a rub, really, or the base to sort of a curry. Okay, so we're just going to shake that out. Now, you could do that in a pestle and mortar. You could also do that. Sometimes chefs or cooks have like little coffee grinders that they can put spices in and mill up. But I just thought I'd use my little gizmo there. So sprinkle that over the top, just enough to sort of cover. And I'm just going to toss this up with my hands now. And this can be left outside. It can be, just put a bit of tin foil over it, leave it in the kitchen or out of the way somewhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be refrigerated. There's nothing that can go off here. When that cooks, it is going to be incredible, beautiful. You wait. Okay, so bit of tin foil and possibly a star of the show tomorrow. Roasted squash, delicious. So I'll put that over here. Now, spuds. These have had about 10 minutes now. So why is it important to parboil potatoes? Okay, it's important, one, because, you know, you don't want a waxy potato to roast for roast dinners, I don't think. You know, you need one like a Maris Piper or something like something sort of that holds its shape well but is nice and fluffy, right? You're going to parboil it because if you just roast something like a vegetable, sometimes it can go a bit sort of hard and a bit uninteresting. And obviously everyone's ovens are different, but just to parboil it just introduces a nice bit of fluffiness into the middle. And then if you roast it hard, then of course that becomes crispy on the outside. And if you get crispy and roasted on the outside and then fluffy and beautiful in the middle, then you're starting to talk about the best roast potato, which is obviously massive brownie points in cooking terms. Right, so I'm just going to drain these. Here we go. So you let that drain. And also this part's quite important because you want your potatoes to steam. And yeah, they're steaming nicely now. You don't want to cook it to a mush or anything like that, but you want the potatoes to slightly break up a little bit. And if I pour this into the roasting tray, right, you can see already that the outside of the potatoes are starting to sort of break up. Right, and just by even jiggling it around a little bit, backwards and forwards, you can see around here they're already starting to break up. So I'm going to let that cool down a tiny bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a secret weapon in the world of roast potatoes, and that is goose fat or duck fat. You can buy it in tins, you can get it in posh delis, you can get it in supermarkets all over the country, and if you ask your butcher for it, I'm sure he'll find you a bit of duck fat. And literally it's the duck fat which has just been sort of heated up until it melts, and that is brilliant. That will make your potatoes the best ones in the whole street. Okay, so while these potatoes and parsnips are cooling down, I'm going to put a little bit of this goose fat. Now, before you start thinking, oh, goose fat, loads of fat, this, that and the other, you know, you don't have to put the whole blimmin' tin in there, all right? Just enough to kind of coat the potatoes. Just about a third of a tin there. And then, of course, you know, we're going to put some salt on there and some pepper. You can put rosemary in tomorrow, but I wouldn't, because it's, you know, I'm getting this. This is a really good job done in advance. Also, in a way, overnight, the potatoes are sort of going to start to suck up some of that salt, the pepper, the goose fat. One of the things I like to do is get a little bit of garlic and literally be brave. Don't be a wussy, you know. Just, you know, whether it's the dried ones or these lovely pink ones, you know, just literally cut them in half or just bash them up like that, right? And get them in too. Don't worry about the skin, you can pick those out, but you've got to imagine this roasting tomorrow. You know, they're going to be absolutely fantastic. There you go. When the turkeys come out to rest, we'll put that in, and after 20 minutes, we'll then put a load of rosemary in with it as well. And by then, it will start to have crisped up, and you have the garlicky, lovely goose fat, potato and parsnip flavours going in there. Rosemary in, toss it up, and it'll be beautiful. All I'm going to do now, just get a spoon and just mix everything up so it's all coated in the fat, because actually, it's the fat that's going to stop the potatoes discolouring or sort of going a bit funny. The wonderful thing is tomorrow morning, Christmas Day, when all the kids are kind of going doolally, you got relatives and all sorts of stuff asking you a million questions because they're not used to kipping around yours or, you know, want to know where stuff is. The fact that you haven't got any parboiling or anything, you can just concentrate on cooking is really good. To get this job sort of half done is brilliant. Now, if we look at that pan now, you might think to yourself, Ooh, well, you know, that potato's broken up a little bit, but that's the whole point, right? If you can get it on the edge like that, that is going to be the bomb. Beautiful. Now, the one thing I'm going to do is when they're starting to brown up in the oven, I'm going to pull the parsnips. You can see they're obvious, the parsnips on the side. Look, there they are, up there, right, poking out. Right, a good little tip to do is to get some thyme, right, like that, out of the garden, buy it from the shop, whatever. Get a little bit of string. If you can at all be bothered, you don't have to. You can just buy it, just grab a bunch. I like to because I like to be organised. Just tie it up like that, and you make yourself like an old witch's broomstick, right? And that is your little flavoured brush. And you put that in a bowl tonight because it's another job done, right? And in there you pour some honey, right? And that honey you are going to brush on with this thyme to your parsnips. Not now. Right? Not at the start of the roasting tomorrow. About when these are nearly perfect, you just go and give it a little brush. Beautiful. Now over here, I've got a Swede. All right? Cheap as chips, very underrated. No one particularly likes them. I've just peeled it. And also, when it comes to the potatoes, parsnips, Swede, you know, doing carrots, it's good to just grab a kid, grab a relative, grab a mate that's come round to ponce a free glass of wine and get them peeling. Even the old man that's in front of the telly, right? Just give him a bucket, a peeler and a load of veg and let him do it while he's watching telly, right? So don't do it all yourself. With regards to the Swede, I'm just going to cut it in half and just sort of into chunks like this. And what I want to do, leave them quite big because they'll disintegrate otherwise. What I want you to do is do about equal quantities of Swede and equal quantities of carrots. And the carrots I've just peeled and they've had the ends taken off. So I'm going to leave them in water overnight. That's a silly little job done, but you know, if you can push yourself on Christmas Eve to get all these jobs done, then tomorrow's going to be a win-win. And all I'll do tomorrow is boil this up and I'll show you how to make the best vegetable mash tomorrow. So there you go. Not bad, eh? Right, Christmas pudding. Massive, traditional, English extravaganza. You set fire to it, beautiful. We love all that. Apart from when it set fire to my nan's hair and she had hairspray in it and it went up in flames and we had to chuck a load of water over it, but it wasn't particularly good at the time. But anyway, most people buy their Christmas pudding from supermarket these days, and to be honest, unless you get the posh ones, they're all right. They're not really anything super special. And my nan, whose hair got burnt that particular day when we set fire to it, makes a wicked Christmas pudding. And what I like about it is she's fiddled over the years with combinations of fruit and also incorporating breadcrumbs into it, which lightens it a bit, because personally, sometimes they're so dense and dark and heavy, and everyone's so sort of like happy about the day and the occasion that actually they don't actually be honest and say, well, it's like a brick. A fruity brick. So I really like my nan's recipe and I've tweaked it slightly, but I love it because it's quick, it's simple, it's damn tasty. You can do it the day before, the week before, you can put it into the fridge, you can cook it and it tastes fantastic and it doesn't make your stomach feel like it's just had an atom bomb dropped in it. So first of all, simple, dates. Very important. Loads of people say they don't like them, but actually they're in sticky toffee pudding, which everyone likes. Key ingredient, I've got 125 grams in there, and I'm going to put them just there because I'm going to chop them up. While we're talking about 125 grams, I'm also going to add some breadcrumbs. And I've got about 125 grams of breadcrumbs. That can go straight into the bowl. Oh, that was hard work. Then I've got my 125 grams of sugar, unrefined sugar. That was hard. Then I've got 125 grams of flour, plain flour, normal flour. So easy, 125 dates, 125 breadcrumbs, 125 sugar, 125 flour. So far we're right in the middle of Idiotsville. If you can't do this, then you shouldn't be driving. Flour in. Then 125 grams of butter or suet. Ooh, butter or suet? Suet tastes much nicer, right? Brilliant. You buy it in these boxes. It's all pre-grated. Why is suet better? Suet is what we use for 400 or 500 years, and it's got 10 times as much flavour as butter, and it makes it slightly more chewy, and I love it. If you're you know, thinking that that's wrong, even though you have roast beef once a week and that's got, you know, same sort of fat, you can go for butter. And if you're even more worried about that, go for margarine, but it will taste horrible. So 125 grams. I'm using suet, you could use butter. There you go. Lovely. Now, once you've done that, you want to use the major flavour, the sort of thing that sort of, not binds it, but the sort of what I suppose Christmas pudding represents is mixed currants, right? So we need 500 grams of mixed currants. And mixed currants is sultanas, raisins, currants, you know, a whole mixture. I've got 400 there, and then my little tweak on this, which is incredible, right, are these dried cherries. And if you've never had the pleasure of trying these, right, oh, they're super, they're incredible, right? So I'm going to put 100 grams of those in. Sorry, I've completely confused you. 500 grams of mixed fruit, which is currants, raisins, sultanas. I'm only going to put 400 in and top it up to 500 with these sour cherries. So really what I should have said to you is 400 grams of mixed fruit and 100 grams of sour cherries. But I'm a plonker, and I apologise. Here we go. In we go. That's kind of the basis of the dish. I'm just going to chop up these dates, which they, you know, they kind of mush up really, really simply. Look at that, sort of squashed already. So we can just put that straight in. Now, that's kind of the basis of it. What I need to do is bind it. So to bind it, I want one nice large egg, okay? Medium large egg, all right? Organic, free range, of course. Straight in there. That's going to sort of bind it. Then we've already got great flavours in there, but what I want to do is sort of Christmassy it up a fair bit. So I'm going to spice it like all the good old English puddings would have, with some old English sort of Victorian spices. Ginger, you know, tiny bit of nutmeg, a pinch of salt, because we've got flour in there. So we always have a pinch of salt when we have flour in things. Orange is very Christmassy, so the zest of one orange, and you wouldn't put just the zest, not the white bit, the beautiful fragrant zest. The difference that will make to this pudding is incredible. And ginger. Okay, ginger, we've got two choices. We've got this sort of stuff which is a bit cheaper, which you can get, it's like glacé ginger, which is quite nice. I love ginger because it's incredibly hot. If you go to the special selection at the supermarkets or go to like an Oriental deli, right, you get this fantastic, I mean, look at that. Right, that is proper nice. The thing is, right, if you cut this and just eat it, oh, it's hot. It's incredibly hot. No one, you know, it's like ginger beer. So I'll probably want about, you know, a tablespoon of chopped kind of glacé ginger, or a sort of a level tablespoon of powdered ginger. So I'll take about 3 of those, maybe in a little swig of that as well, even though I'm not supposed to. And I'll just chop it up roughly. But again, a wicked flavour, so good. Great in stir fries as well, actually, and in curries. Beautiful. So that goes in. Right, so that's pretty much done. All I've got to do now is bind it, and I'm going to use milk to sort of do that. I want 150 millilitres, which is sort of, you know, about a quarter of a pint, really. Where's my jug? Here we go. 150 millilitres. About there. Right, and that will be sufficient. Now, you could put a tiny bit of nutmeg in, you could put a tiny pinch of cinnamon in, even a little pinch of 5 spice in there if you want. But essentially, that is a beautiful cherries, raisins, currants, sultanas, ginger. You know, it's going to be really, really good. Oh, I did forget one thing, actually. Booze, brandy, right? They say about 2 tablespoons, right? Which is about that. Bit of brandy in there, kind of. Because don't forget, all those dried fruits, you know, they're going to swell up and take in all that lovely flavour. So, you know, give it a really good mix. And actually, as I'm doing this, I'm sort of thinking, just get in there and really give it a good old mix up with your hands. Really scrunch it in, really between your fingers. Obviously you've got nice clean hands like me, so it don't matter. In the old days, they used to put an old threepence, didn't they, at the bottom of the cake mould. But I think health and safety would stop me from endorsing that these days, because someone will choke on it and then they'll sue me. And then it'll all be terrible, wouldn't it? There we go, look. Kids love doing all this sort of stuff. Of course you could just stir it, but that wouldn't quite be me, would it? Okay. So, cooking it, dead simple, really simple in actual fact. What you do is get 1.5 litre pudding basin, which is like that. You can get them pretty much everywhere. Or you can kind of find something similar. Like, it wouldn't be bad in that, but it wouldn't be the classic old-fashioned English shape. What I need to do with this is give it a ruddy good greasing up. And when I say ruddy good, I mean get a nice little knob here of butter and really grease it around the rim, right? Right around the bottom, right? That's it, right around the rim. Beautiful, look at that. All right, that's what we like, yeah? Nice and greased up. And then just spoon this mix into here. You can see already that it's not dark and miserable like a lot of the old classic Christmas puddings. And the only reason I'm showing you this is because I truly, truly believe it's better than those ones, and lighter and tastier. Pat it down like this. Try and just flatten it with the spoon as much as you can. It will rise, but don't forget it's a reasonably dense pudding, and it just needs good long steaming. So what I'm going to do here is just probably get a bit of greaseproof. Do that old trick where the presenter disappears while you fold that in half like that, and then you fold it in half like that, and then you fold that in half like that. So a little bit like doing an airfix model, you know, paper airplanes, all right, like that. And like that, always folding into the middle, like that. And then you measure up your little dish here. Ooh. Okay, so we kind of like the look of that. You can have a little bit up the side, right? And then you tear it. And then, look at that, isn't it pretty? So, get a little bit of the butter. Grease it, place it on the top, and that'll be lovely. And then some tin foil. Now, when I say tin foil, get a nice bit, like that. Fold it in half, and fold it in half again. So it's reasonably thick. You place that around it, really sort of pinching it to the rim of the bowl. And, you know, some people... Actually, I might as well do it while I'm here. There's string here. You can just sort of tie it onto the rim. So you've got something reasonably good to pull it out of the water with, but I wouldn't bet your money on it. Use a cloth. So, we're going to cook this tomorrow for 3 hours. Right, and obviously you check if it's nice and cooked in the middle with a knife or a cocktail stick. Goes in, comes out. If it comes out clean, happy days, you're all good. For about 3 hours on a steady old boil. That goes into a pan, which is obviously bigger than that, filled up to that much of water with a lid on top. But we'll go through that tomorrow. Right, now to go with it, you know, the classic is to have brandy butter, which is really simple. It's a pack of butter with 2 heaped tablespoons of icing sugar, whipped up with a few swigs of brandy. You know, really hard. I've got to be honest. Buy it from the supermarket, save yourself a job. I would do it, you might as well, right? Then it comes to the custard. Now, to be honest, like, if you buy posh custard, they make it with eggs and cream and milk, and it's like an anglaise sauce, right? But I always think it's a bit eggy. It's all right for making ice cream, but go and buy some Bird's custard and use that. I think it's much better, personally. Don't ask me why. Maybe as a chef I should be saying, oh, make an anglaise, and sit there with a bowl over some water, whisking eggs and sugar and cream and milk for half an hour while you could be doing much more interesting things like having a drink. Go and buy some nice Bird's pre-made custard, and don't worry about it. So there we go, beautiful. Incredible Christmas pudding, right? Job done, idiot can do it, simple recipe to follow, good fun with the kids to get them involved, whack it in the fridge, and now I'm looking pretty damn good. Good to the point, actually, where we've got an incredible turkey sitting there, flavoured up, roaring to go, with veggies on the bottom to make the best gravy ever, right? We've got Christmas pudding, we've got some incredible veggies, we've got roasted veggies galore, right? That's to mention but a few things, right? So we're all on top of things. It's going to be tasty. And, you know, I think a little clean down, a little chill out, and a little bevoir session. Happy Christmas. So, it's the big day, it's Christmas Day, and all the hard work that you did yesterday has paid off, because basically I'm looking at everything we've done, and really I've just got to concentrate on really good cooking and trying to be a bit more methodical. You know, I've got more time off now to muck about with the kids and the family and sort of, you know, just do those sort of Christmassy things. So, it's not a stressful situation, but what's really exciting is, you know, to get everything out of the fridge, look at what you've got. So I've got my lovely turkey here, right, and I've got my squash here, and I've got the spuds and the parsnips from yesterday. Now, these vegetables can stay out, you know, in the corner of the kitchen. The pudding that we did yesterday, that can stay out as well. Obviously, the sausages and bacon will go back into the fridge until, you know, half an hour before we're going to serve dinner, so they get nice and freshly cooked and golden. But let's talk about turkey. Now, there's so many different ways to do turkey. If you read an old cookbook or a new cookbook, or, you know, my mum does it in an oven overnight slowly, and, you know, the way I like to do it, to give me moist breast meat, lovely melt-in-your-mouth leg meat, and a crispy skin, is kind of, well, we've already salted it and we've flavoured it, so that's going to massive flavour, give you a lovely crisp skin. But what I like to do is crank my oven up to full whack, right? Now, I'm not going to cook the turkey in that, I'm just going to preheat the oven to full whack. And then what's really important, a load of people get a turkey from the fridge and bosh it in the oven. Just think about it, hot oven, it's almost like an ice cube inside it. So obviously that's going to completely alter the cooking times that your butcher's given you, or your friend's given you, or the book's given you. So get the turkey out, keep it covered, and let it come to room temperature. Half an hour, 40 minutes, right? And then you've got a nice sort of like open, you know, plan to cook this turkey nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook this turkey at about 180. This is a 6 kilo turkey, and I'm going to cook it for about half an hour a kilo. Now, the other hard thing is, the bigger, if that's a 6 kilo turkey there, and that's a 12 kilo turkey there, the cooking amount of time doesn't go like that. Because basically, you know, think about it, a 10 kilo bird doesn't take double of a 5 kilo bird. So the kind of cooking graph goes a little bit like that, okay? That's really complicated, also it's really boring. So I've done you a turkey cooking timetable, which will make it really easy, and we've got birds from 6 kilos up to 12 kilos, and it will give you exactly the right cooking time, so don't worry about that. So, this little bird here, I'm going to stuff it first. Now, stuffing, again, a lot of controversy. If you look in the old cookbooks, you know, stuff it, ram it up with stuffing at the back, in the cavity, right? There's been a little, you know, people worried and saying, oh, don't stuff your turkey, it alters your cooking time. Well, yes, that's very true. But what I like to do is, if you look at the turkey there, that's quite a deep cavity in there. And if you look at this beautiful stuffing that we've done, what I like to do, actually, don't smear it in there like a piece of concrete, you know, just sort of squeeze lumps of it like that, about an inch and a half thick, and I just like to place it at the back and just load it in. The reason I like to do that is because the heat can still circulate inside the turkey, so it's cooking from the inside and from the outside, so you won't have any sort of compromising of cooking times or cooking of the bird. And also, the main reason I like to put stuffing in the bird is because you get the flavour from the stuffing cooking into the turkey, and the flavour from the turkey cooking into the stuffing, which is a win-win, right? And we all, you know, we want flavour. So you can see I've just loosely put that in there. Right, you can see it's not, I haven't filled this whole area here, right? It's still, you know, quite loose in there. And I'm only going to put about half in there. Now, if you want, of course, you can stuff the neck here as well. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe we'll put a little bit in there as well, right? Just at the back. Again, don't sort of pack it in too thick, right? So I've got a little bit in the back. I've got a little bit in the front. That's going to give you massive, massive flavour. And then also what I quite like to do is just do some, like, almost like meatballs. And the reason I do these is for other friends who like really crispy stuffing. And what I'll do is I'll put that in with the sausages and the bacon, which will take about 25 minutes in the oven to roast. And these little meatballs will take exactly the same time. So I'm going to put these with these little mummers, and we'll put them in the oven with the turkey towards the end of the cooking. Right? We'll cover those, and I'll put these straight back into the fridge. So they're all nice and safe. And this turkey, which is now stuffed, I'm going to put the tin foil back. I'm going to whack this into an oven, which is on full whack, as soon as the oven door closes, down to 180. And then the reason I turn it up is just to get it roasting a little bit, you know? And then 180 all the way. And then about half an hour before the turkey's cooked, i.e. in about 2.5 hours' time, for the last half an hour, tin foil comes off and we get all that beautiful crispiness happening to the skin. And you'll also find there'll be so much goodness in and around the vegetables and the wings that we put in the bottom of the tray that you'll make the best gravy ever. So, in we go. There you go, in the middle of the oven. Still a room in there to get a tray of potatoes. After about 2.5 hours, I'll whip the tin foil off and let that skin go really nice and crisp on top. So I've got 3 hours. So I've got loads of time. Right? These spuds and squash need 40 minutes a little bit later when the turkey comes out to rest. You know, my veg here, you know, obviously we only start to even think about cooking that, you know, when the turkey's resting, as you start, you know, for 20 minutes. So really, you know, time's pretty much on my side. This is the time, really, just to get that last bit of organisation, table, plates, drinks. I'm going to do some mashed veg. Now, the reason I like mashed veg, it's not just because I love the taste of it and all my mates love it. It's also because it's a wonderful vegetable to be able to hold. Now, for instance, this steamer, which I think everyone should go and get, which allows you to get 4 veg on one little gas hob, try and get one. If you're going to be stubborn and not get one, right, you could just cook all this veg the day before in a separate pan and sort of take it out when it's nicely cooked and cool it down in cold water, and then mix them all up again and reheat them in the microwave. But to be honest, that's another job, and you could have it all lovely and fresh and simple with this. Also, I'm going to do some mashed vegetables, OK? So, carrots and swede. Loads of people say, oh, I don't like swede. I tell you what, you have, you know, 1 swede with about 6 or 7 nice carrots. You boil that up, and then you mash that up, and I'll show you how to do it later, just with some butter, salt and pepper, and it's delicious. And the great thing is, once we've mashed it, we can hold that covered in tin foil, it'll stay warm, and it'll be 1 more veg done. So what I'm going to do is, because this veg holds quite well, I'm just going to bring that to the boil now, over here, which is going to take about probably half an hour, 40 minutes before it's ready to be mashed. But the beauty of doing all the work yesterday in a kind of controlled, stress-free environment is the fact that I know that squash, parsnips, potatoes is going to taste brilliant. Oh, we've got the great Christmas pudding, and I've got my 4 lovely veggies and flavoured butters ready to go, just to be turned on. But until then, to be honest, I've got nothing to do apart from sort of chill out with the family, have a little drink, read the paper, do whatever. Probably what I'd just do for 5 minutes is make sure my table's all right, get my cutlery ready for the right amount of people, plates. If you have to go and nick a plate or something from your neighbours, it's probably a bit too late, but go and nick it from your neighbour. Also, when I start to serve everything, you know, it's probably a good time to get your platters out and ready to go. And apart from that, easy peasy. Great job. So the turkey's been on for about 40 minutes now, and it's taken about that long to cook my big chunky bits of swede and carrots, and you can check that they're cooked because basically you stick a knife in and it'll just fall off. So that's definitely cooked. Now, nothing needs to be done to the turkey. I'm going to drain the swedes and carrot, and there you go. Some beautiful swede and carrots. I'm just going to mash that. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to use to mash it. One of these cheap little metal bowls, OK? Put them into here. Again, you could use your blender if you wanted to, but I'm just going to use a masher to keep it manual, and literally just mash it. Now the key to mashed veg, obviously, is getting a nice smooth consistency. You do need them to be a little bit more beyond cooked, right, to get it nice and smooth. By mixing the vegetables, you can completely add a different dimension to it. I.e., instead of just having swede or just carrots, you know, it's brilliant to put a combo in there. Things like celeriac, potatoes, turnips, swede, carrots, all of these things mash really, really well. And of course you can add, you know, a little bit of rosemary or something like that in there just to flavour it if you wanted. But I kind of want to keep this one pretty simple. Now, I've been mashing that for about a minute, and you can see we've got almost that sort of, it's almost like mincemeat sort of texture and size. I quite like that. You can do it like baby food, by all means, but I'm quite sort of liking that consistency. Now let's taste it. Right, that needs work. Now, if I served that now to a bunch of kids, or even family actually, and said, oh, that's mashed vegetables, they would go, ugh, you know, oh, I hate vegetables, or I hate mashed vegetables. But if you do it like I do it, you can really make it an absolute pleasure. First and foremost is some nice sea salt. It's got to be seasoned, right? And pepper. You can go reasonably heavy on the pepper. Nice, finely ground, freshly ground black pepper. Give it a nice little kick. Now you could use olive oil, but I'm going to use butter again. And that's going to completely enrich the smashed vegetables. And I'll tell you what's really good in mashed veg is like just a couple of Jerusalem artichokes. I don't know if you've ever tried them before, but if you haven't, next time you do mashed potatoes, buy a couple of Jerusalem artichokes, and I'll tell you what, you'll always do it because it just gives the most incredible flavour. So there you go, butter goes in. Obviously that's going to melt straight away, and literally carry on sort of mixing and mashing. Now, when we used to do this in the restaurant, obviously if you've got 250 people coming in for lunch, you can't go around making individual portions of mashed vegetables. So a little trick that we do in the restaurant is once we've got it tasting nice and we've seasoned it up, and you need to concentrate on that seasoning, otherwise it's not going to be good. Have a little taste. Delicious. Just flatten it down, right? You don't have to do anything more to it. All I'm going to do is get a bit of tin foil, cover it like this. I suppose in a way that's the first job done. Cooked, done, seasoned, ready to go. And all I need to do now is keep that warm. Now, of course, you've got some options here. You could let it go cold, put it in a dish, cling film it, and heat it up in the microwave. Or I need to get my Christmas pudding on now, because that takes 3 hours to cook. And what I'm kind of thinking is if I put my Christmas pudding into this pan here, and I need to fill it up just a little bit below the top of the bowl. So I'll get some water. And we'll fill that up. Now, of course, you need to keep an eye on the level of the water, because obviously when you boil it, you create steam, and eventually all that water is going to evaporate. So check on it a couple of times, because what you don't want is the water boiling away and you just literally kind of frying a dry pan of pudding in there. That's going to be boiling away with the pudding inside, right? And my lovely swede here is going to sit on top. So we get kind of, again, we're sort of making really good use of space. So 2 in 1. We'll put this over here, we'll bring it to the boil, and we'll just chug it down a bit so it's just sort of the boiling water's rolling over. And there you go. Literally, the turkey is 45 minutes into cooking, right? The swede's done, the pudding's on, right? I've already had an easy sort of half an hour really, doing not too much. Again, I can go away now for probably another hour and a half until the turkey's had about 2.5 hours, right? So until then, I'm off again. Right, so, have a look at this. There's my turkey. Beautiful. Skin, nice and crisp. Stuffing, meat's cooked. I'm going to check to see if it's cooked. It's had 3 hours. About half an hour ago, I just whipped the tin foil off just to get it all roasted up nicely. Pudding is fine. Swede is keeping warm. Veg is still here. At this point, my squash that I did yesterday and my potatoes that I did yesterday can all go into the oven to roast up. So I'm just going to jiggle the shelves around and put these potatoes right at the top, and then I'll put the squash underneath, not to forget the bacon and sausages and the little stuffing balls, so they'll go in between them. Beautiful. So they're going to cook away. Now, there's a few different ways that you can check if the turkey's cooked, right? So common sense should tell you that you need to go to the thickest part of the turkey, which is around here. I want you to get a fork or a skewer, or even a thin knife could do it. Stick it right in to the thickest part of the turkey. Count to 10, pull it out, and put it on your lip. Right? Now, if it's hot, which that is, you're laughing. If it's lukewarm or cold or not quite hot, you know, it's not cooked, it'll have to go back in. That's one good check. Another one is if you get some tongs and you sort of get the fork and you sort of pick it up and just hold it like this for a bit. Right, and like with a roast chicken, just if you can, hold it there and see if it runs pink, if there's any pink juice that comes out, which there's not, right? So we're going to transfer that to the board. If you look in this tray here, look, here's the old turkey wings, right, and the actual meat. I mean, that'll just literally just falls apart, you know, so you're going to get good flavour out of that. Also, if you look at my onions, they've got some, you know, they've really roasted. You know, there's a bit of colour. It almost might look too dark, right? But believe you me, real beautiful turkey marmitey flavour. It'll be fantastic. And actually, if you look on the bottom of the tray just there, that literally is pretty much marmite in there, that black stuff. So really good. Now, what I want to do is I'm just going to cover this turkey. I'm going to let this rest. My mum and dad used to let it rest for sort of 40, 45 minutes, which will give us time to get those spuds really, really hot, and I'll turn those spuds up to full whack now. Now what I want to do is I want to wrap this turkey up in some tin foil. Get yourself double thickness, wrap it around like this, and you will be amazed how long that keeps it really warm. And don't forget, we're going to have boiling hot gravy to go over it. So don't worry about the turkey being boiling hot. It's much better. If you've got a turkey out of the oven and started to carve it, even after 15 minutes, it's, you know, you won't, all the juice from inside it won't have time to sort of go back to the meat, and that's what you want to do. Also, I'm going to put a cloth over it as well, almost like a little sleeping bag, right? So that's going to really look after the turkey. Every now and again, you'll probably notice on your board there's a bit of juice coming out of the turkey, and that's totally normal. It's all the goodness from inside. And if you can, just pour that into your gravy tray. Now, on the gravy, what I want you to do is I want you just to angle the tray to one side. You can pull all the meat out. Now, if you pull it out here like that, you'll notice that half of that liquid is fat. Right, and if you put your spoon at the top, just gently like that, can you see it just filling up my spoon? Right, that's pure turkey fat there, and obviously a little bit of the butter. And let's talk about the butter. Do you remember yesterday we stuffed that butter under the skin of the turkey? Right, for a minute, imagine you were the butter, right, hanging around under that skin of that turkey, and it starts to cook, and you've got a little bit of nutmeg and a little bit of orange zest and salt in there. Right, just think of the journey of that butter to get into the tray would have basted all the turkey meat, so that is going to taste beautiful, really, really good. But obviously, the fat from the turkey and the butter ends up in this tray, and I'm going to spoon out most of it, 90% of it. So that, there we are, nearly there. Lovely. So, if you look in the tray now, it's almost like marbly. Can you see how it's sort of got that marble effect? That's because I've got a little bit of fat still in there. So what I want you to put into the tray, and I'll put the gas on now, and this is kind of how I make a nice gravy. Put your pan on, heat it up. For me, there's nothing worse than wafy gravy on a Christmas dinner, you know, sort of like, just like stock, you know, horrible. So probably put about 1.5 tablespoons of flour into here. And sort of play it by ear, really. I mean, it depends how much, this would be enough for sort of, maybe, let's say 2 tablespoons of flour would be enough for about sort of 10 people gravy. You've got loads of goodness in there. And literally just move the whole contents of the pan about. And with the gas going on now, it's going to start frying. Some people, especially if you're in sort of France or something like that, whenever they make a sort of jus or something like that, they probably wouldn't use flour, to tell you the truth. But what they would do is probably splash in a little bit of red wine. You could do sherry or port if you want. But I just like a simple gravy with, not too clever. You can see all the goodness from the onion sort of caramelising has given it the most incredible flavour. I must say that is quite dark. It's not always as dark as that, but it just depends on how your onions cook, really. I'm really sort of smashing all of the vegetables up. You see I'm almost mushing up the onions. So obviously you're going to sieve all of that out. Now, to make the gravy, you can put water in, and you'll have a mild gravy. And if you want a good old gravy, of course, it's nice to have some turkey or chicken stock. Now, there's absolutely no way, today of all days, or even yesterday really, that I expect you to start going getting turkey bones and stuff like that to make a stock. So what I do is I buy these little tubs of pre-made stock. All right, they're chicken stock, and they're really handy. You can get them everywhere. All the supermarkets have them now. And it just means if you're doing a risotto or gravy or soup, you don't have to, it's 2005 for crying out loud. See here, I said there'd be loads of moisture that comes out, so I'm just going to slide this off and pour that lovely juice. And keep an eye on that, because you'll get some nice juice out of the turkey. You get the real good Christmas flavour coming out of that. Now these tubs are dead simple. Just open them up, whack them in. And you'll notice that when I pour this in, it looks a little bit lumpy. Don't be worried if yours looks like that. Actually, if it's lumpy, it's actually a sign, or certainly when I was training to cook, the French chef would say, when your stock, if you make stock and you put it in the fridge to cool down, if it's a good one, it'll always kind of go, it'll go like a jelly. And that's all the kind of goodness out of the bones that does that. There you go. And a fourth one. I guess it's about 2 pints of chicken stock there. So all I'm going to do is bring that to the boil. Gravy should take about, 15-20 minutes really. Vegetables, got bones, got chicken stock. Actually, it's nice to keep a little bit of fat in there because the fat has a lot of flavour too. Just move it around. Scrape all the goodness off the bottom. Because see where, if you do gravy properly, you shouldn't have to do any work in the old washing up afterwards, because you should have got all that lovely goodness off the bottom. Lovely. Right, so I've got the gravy just ticking over nicely. Low heat, 15 minutes. Turkey can rest for sort of half an hour, 40 minutes. Under there, you wouldn't believe how warm it can stay. And then in the oven, I've got me potatoes, I've got me parsnips, I've got the beautiful squash, I've got the sausage wrapped in the bacon and the sage, I've got my smashed veg done, and let's turn the steamer on now. So I've got the 4 veg cooking away now. And then, of course, the last thing that's going to come out of the oven is the beautiful roasted potatoes, which are going to be last thing, hot and crisp. Beautiful. I can't believe how little there is to do, really. No, it's all good. Oh, right. All the family are coming through in about 3 minutes. Gravy's been ticking away for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Turkey, I can still feel, is lovely and warm. What I want to do now is I'm going to keep the spuds in here, obviously, to the last minute. Look at the colour I got on those. And do you remember that little tip I had yesterday? What I'm going to try and do is just, if I try and bring these parsnips to sort of the top, like that, and then what I want to do is get that little honey and thyme brush, and here we go. Just brush that on. You will get flavour from the thyme. As soon as that hits the heat, you just wait for it. And I'm not brushing the potatoes, by the way. Just the lovely parsnips. And that's all you need to do. Right, so I'm going to pop these back in the oven. See, look, there's my beautiful pigs in blankets. Look at those, they look absolutely beautiful. Nice and crisp, golden brown all over. So that's one thing done. Then, let's have a look. Plenty of water still in there. That's still got another half an hour's cooking. But my mashed veg can now be decanted into something a little bit more respectable. Look at that. Lovely. I'm going to decant that into this nice little dish. There we go. Just a little knob of butter in there. And I'll give that spoon with that. That'll be delicious. What else have we got? Oh, I've got our lovely vegetables here, which have been steaming away. Now, let's have a little think about this. Let's get our butters out of the fridge. And if we think back to yesterday, we went slightly over the top in making 4 packs of butters worth of flavoured butter. But that's all right because, you know, we're only going to use a little knob of it really for our veg today, but we can carry on using this for ages. So let's open this out. You can see it's obviously all firmed up now. So first one we got here is the parsley and garlic one. And then I've got, that's the anchovy and lemon and rosemary one. And this is the orange, thyme and a tiny pinch of cumin one. And they're all completely individual in flavour. And then I've got this awesome crispy sage, pancetta and chestnut one, which is going to go with the Brussels sprouts, which I think people are going to love. And there we go. Now I'm going to show you how to use them. Get one of these bowls which are really helpful. And for instance, the first one we got here is the broccoli. And that's going to go with the anchovy and rosemary. And I can promise you that that will be absolutely divine. So put a good knob of anchovy and rosemary in there. Put the broccoli in. And literally all you have to do is just let it sit for a second, let the butter melt, and then we can just put that in the middle, like that. And then the next one we do is the peas. Beautiful steamed peas, and that is going with the garlic and parsley one. Toss that in there. Delicious. And you can see how easy this is. I know normally you just, you know, chuck it in a little bit of butter, but I promise you everyone will be raving about this because every single veg not only will look different, but it will taste completely different. And you can see that butter's now just melting on those peas. So I'm just going to put those next to the broccoli, like that. And then I've got me Brussels, good old Brussels. In they go. And with that, I've got my fantastic, look at that, if you look into that. Beautiful chestnut, crispy pancetta, sage, beautiful. So I'm just going to break these into there. And there's obviously quite a lot of, you know, not so much butter in there, so you can be a bit more generous. Here we go. So these Brussels are going to be absolutely fantastic. With the crispy pancetta, sage. Just pour that in there. There you go, a lovely platter of fantastic greens. And then for the carrots, I'm just going to toss it with the orange and thyme, which will be delicious. There we go. There we go. Look at that. You can see them all getting nicely coated. And we'll just push those into a nice bowl. Right, so there's the beautiful carrots. Got a lovely platter of greens. It's all coming together pretty damn quick, actually. Let's get rid of these butters for a sec. Now, I'll slice these butters and I'll put them back into the freezer and they'll keep for months and months, and you can use them on all sorts of different things. Fish, meat, flatbreads, all sorts of things. So, I suppose, really, we're into sort of turkey territory, aren't we? Oh, I've got to show you the squash. Look at those delicious squash. I'm just going to pour them into a nice little dish. Look at that. Something different and absolutely delicious. My family love those. Right. Anything else? Gravy. I think we should probably get onto gravy duty, really. I'm going to serve it in a jug, as always. You want a sieve. And it's pretty damn simple. Have a little taste up first, get all that goodness off the bottom, and your consistency. Okay, we could probably put a little bit of water in there. A little bit of water in there. Probably go down a treat. Just to thin it out a little bit. And let's have a go at doing this gravy without making too much of a mess, if possible. I always make a mess of this anyway. Oh, that's good gravy. Look at that. And you see those roasted onions in the bottom of that turkey have given it such a fantastic flavour. Sorry, not flavour, well, yeah, flavour, but also look at the colour. I mean, anyone would think that's like a beef gravy. Just press all those bones down. Really give it a squeeze. I know I've made a little bit of a mess, but the most important thing is it tastes good. And what I'll do is I'll carry on pushing that through, but you can just clean the little jug up. Make it look all nice. So there you go. Let's move this turkey over, and I want to show you how to do some good carving of a turkey. So I'm going to carve onto a platter, and first of all, I'm just going to take these legs off, okay? And I'm literally just going to run my knife past the legs and just pull them off. And it's kind of got to a better temperature now, even though it's nice and warm. These tongs are fantastic for pretty much all use in the kitchen. I'm just going to pull those legs off and I'll put them on my wooden surface there, like that. Now I've got the legs off, you can see that this whole breast area here is completely clear to be sliced. And don't forget, we got the butcher to take out the wishbone. So instead of like hitting that bone every 5 seconds, it now means that we can get our fork and we can just carve, instead of like that, we can carve almost quite vertically down, which is good because we've prepped the turkey so nicely. And I just like to lay the turkey side by side on the platter. I think platter's quite good. You can do it onto plates by all means, but the platter's quite good because people can pass it around. You know, they can take a bit of their preference, white meat, dark meat, and try and encourage everyone to have a bit of everything. And as you can see, the meat is beautifully moist, and also, you know, it's hot. You can see it's steaming. So with that tea towel on top of the tin foil, it does a really good job. So I'm going to slice all of this meat up, and it only takes about 4 or 5 minutes just to do a really nice job of it. You can see that little bit of stuffing poking out the back here, which we can slice that out now. And also don't forget we put some in the cavity as well. Stuffing I like to put at the other end. Instead of like really carving right down to the bone, what I try and do is just carve until it kind of starts to get a little bit, not uncomfortable, but you know, you're starting to get near that sort of, you know, bone part of the turkey. And then I spin around and always try and carve on your best side. And what that means is we've got a little bit of leftovers tomorrow. You can make a nice coronation salad, or you can do, you know, soup, or you can just tear it up and, you know, do a stew or a curry or something like that. Look at that, dead easy to carve. Look at that. Look how lovely and moist that turkey is. And it's kept warm, isn't it? Beautifully warm, really good. Okay, so we've sort of done a whole load of meat there. We can always go back for more, but let's not rape our turkey of leftovers tomorrow. Okay, so nice meat. Now, of course, here we got the stuffing, and we can pull that out and put that next to the other stuffing. And of course, all the goodness. You can see in that cavity now, all that lovely juice in there. We'll add that in the gravy in a minute. Right, so I'm just going to put my turkey over here. I can always come back for seconds, and you know, I've got a nice platter there. If I need more, I'll come back and it'll stay warmer there. So with the legs, right, there's various things you can do. You can cut the thigh off and the leg and the drumstick off, which is basically just by putting your knife in between that sort of join there, and you can actually give it as a piece of meat. And some people actually do prefer it, right? Because, you know, obviously the brown meat's got more flavour than the white meat. But actually what I like to do, a little bit like when you go to a Chinese restaurant and you know you get the Peking duck come out, what I like to do is just pull and shred that brown meat away from the bones and discard all the bones here and now. It takes 2 seconds. It also means that everyone can have a nice bit of brown meat. And also, some people are a bit funny about brown meat, but if they try it sort of shredded like this, they realise how delicious and tender it is. So it's quite a good idea. Just rip it up, almost shred it, just like they do in the Chinese. And also, look at the amount of meat that's come out of just one leg. So what I'll do is I'll get this lovely brown meat and I'll put that next to the stuffing and the white meat. That looks absolutely delicious. I'm really pleased with that. The turkey's cooked to perfection. The meat from the thighs is actually just, you know, it just sort of is melting off the bone. Lovely stuffing, a nice, juicy, moist white breast meat, which is always a bit of a winner. I'm going to keep this leg as well, and we can go back for seconds again as well. So that's it. Super. Oh, potatoes. Oh, look at those. They're fantastic. And what you can do now at this point, even though I'm holding back for it, is you know, get your family to start running this out to the table right now, so you don't get too much clutter in your kitchen. Luckily, I've got quite a nice big surface here, so I can get away with a little bit more. If you're a little bit short on platters or serving dishes, you know, whoever the guests are that are coming around your house, they don't have to bring much. Ask them to bring a bottle of wine, some prezzies, and tell them to bring their, you know, a couple of nice dishes, because, you know, it's quite nice not have to do it in disposable things, you know. Look at that. Now, even I know that those spuds are looking like world-class ones. Really crispy on the outside, fluffy in the middle. So here we go. Look at that. It's already looking like a fantastic spread. We got everything? Yes, I think we have got everything. Serving spoons. Yeah, we've got that. Oh, cranberry. I've just warmed that through again. I left it in that pan that we cooked it in yesterday. Lovely cranberry sauce. We are looking pretty good. Actually, I think we're ready to eat. Come on, guys, dinner's ready! Christmas. Right.
Oh, delicious.
You guys, if you sit down and you pass all this around.
Stop it.
Now look, kiddies. Here's yours.
Fancy on my
That's extra stuff, and there's more stuff on the meat platter.
It's lovely. Really good.
Don't say that I don't love you, eh?
Sorry?
No, we spiked all the things that we haven't done.
I've got the right one. Anyway, I stood with Trigger or whatever he's called for about an hour, and he made me laugh so much. I think he'll put you off your roast turkey.
Mum, cranberry jelly.
Come on, wish me a Merry Christmas.
Open your presents, boys.
Go, boys.
Look,
Go on,
Billy.
Billy. Go on, Billy. What's the present?
Billy, look.
Show Grandpa.
Look what I got.
Oh, Christmas present.
Yay!
Oh, lovely.
Just for me?
Yes.
Oh, you're so generous. Look at that, everyone! Thank you very much, Nan. You're very kind. Well, guys, I hope you got lots of helpful tips and hints and some beautiful recipes. Have a happy Christmas and a wonderful New Year. And I hope you get lots of beautiful presents just like me. Thank you, Nan. Just in case you thought you didn't have enough food, I'm going to do a little smoked salmon starter. For me, Christmas, smoked salmon, starter, I mean, like, they're perfect together. So it's a really, really simple starter. So simple, in fact, that I don't even make it until my guests or family literally get around the table. It's that quick. All I have to do is buy some nice smoked salmon. Try and get the dry cured smoked salmon. And what I mean by that is, you know, they salt it in sea salt and then they slowly smoke it. And it's not sort of fatty and shiny, it's quite, you know, sort of dense and just delicious in flavour. So literally, take this out of the pack, lay it quite roughly over the platter. And you want about 1.5 packs. You only need a couple of slices, you know, 2 or 3 slices per person. And if you've got a good fishmongers, they will obviously have a whole side which they'll slice for you. The thing I really love about this kind of eating is I'm going to do it on 2 platters, and I think for modern day eating, platters are fantastic because, you know, it just stops you having to worry about, you know, plating everything up and making it look pretty. And, you know, I think plating up at home is just, again, a bit of a stress if you're doing it for a sort of party of people. And like these platters are fantastic because I can kind of, anything from sort of salads, you know, stir fries, you know, I can just literally spread onto the platter. You don't want to kind of keep it all neat and prim and proper. Have it sort of wavy and sort of almost sort of reaching over the sides. Right, so 1 bit here and 1 bit here, and there you go. 2 platters of smoked salmon. So far, absolutely no rocket science whatsoever. Now, I want to tell you about some flavours that work really, really well with smoked salmon. Right, so we all know that lemon juice and smoked salmon is a wicked combination. People always put black pepper onto smoked salmon. And if you sort of think about it, you know, black pepper and say watercress, you know, they're both quite peppery in flavour, beautiful. For me, I love to eat watercress and smoked salmon, and visually as well, crunchy, green, beautiful, silky smooth smoked salmon. It's a genius little combo. So I'm gonna have a couple of little bunches of watercress that I've already washed. I'm gonna just dress these in a bowl with the tiniest little drizzle of olive oil, just a little bit, and a little bit of lemon juice. So it's nice and fresh. Tiny pinch of salt. Use your fingertips, just dress that. Right, and that, I don't even need that much watercress. That I'm just gonna kind of put into the middle, and you can have a few bits sort of flicking off the side of it. Right, and already I think that's something delicious that I really want to eat. Okay, so there's a nice. Now, you've got to work quick because obviously the watercress, you know, like any salad leaf, they're delicate. So I've dressed it now, so pull your finger out. I've got creme fraiche here. I've got some lemon juice. And this is horseradish. You can just dig this out of the ground. It kind of grows everywhere in England. Looks like a kind of really robust sort of dock leaf. But if you don't know what it is, don't worry. You can just get a nice jar of horseradish sauce, hot horseradish sauce from the supermarket. So obviously we want a bit of heat here, right? And if you look into, you know, quite a lot of cultures, horseradish and smoked fish is like a great combo. I mean, they love it. Smoked and that kind of heat, you know, almost, I suppose if you think about it, you know, horseradish has got heat very much like ginger or chilli, you know, and it's really good with fish. So I've got 2 big spoons of horseradish in there, and then I want 2 spoons of creme fraiche in there, and then I want the juice of about at least a whole lemon in there. I want it to be really, really lemony, and I want it to make this sort of sauce quite thin, right? So I'm just gonna, because don't forget, when you have your smoked salmon, it's always nice to have a little bit of lemon juice on it. You need that little hit. But all we're doing is, you know, to the traditional lemon juice, we're adding a little bit of creme fraiche, that sort of sour, yogurty sort of creamy taste, and then that lovely horseradish, which I promise you works incredibly well. And literally all I'm going to do now is taste it. Tiny bit of salt. I'm not going to put any pepper on yet. And I'm just going to drizzle that around the smoked salmon. And you take that to the table. Right, this whole dish takes about 4 minutes to make. There's absolutely no trouble at all. You just serve some brown bread at the table and just serve it with some nice cracked black pepper. And that, my friend, is a beautiful, beautiful dish. It's quick and delicious, and I think it'll be great for Christmas Day. Last year when I was in America, for Thanksgiving. They did the full Monty with the turkey and everything. It was fantastic. And they did this creamed corn, which was absolutely genius. And we never, ever have it in England. And my Aussie mates have never had it back there either. And I thought it was brilliant, really, really good. And it's pretty simple. Before I get on to showing you how to do it, of course you can open a tin and you can just reheat it and we'll go from there. But if you want to do it really, really well, get yourself some corn on the cob, right? And literally all you do is cut the little husk off. And even if you're not doing this dish and you're doing normal sweet corn for any old dinner, or even in stir-fries and stuff like that, or salads, just to get it on its flat side there, and to get the tip of the knife and just to run it down. If you don't push the knife too hard, the knife will naturally find the kind of core, and it will just nicely scrape it off of the cob. And what you get left with is the cob here, and beautiful, beautiful corns. And if you think, you know, when you do corn on the cob at home, you probably boil it for 15, 20 minutes, don't you, in salted boiling water. Well, what's really lovely about knowing how to do this is, even if you're doing normal, just, you know, sort of buttered corn, to actually just take it off like that, run your knife down it like this. I reckon you can cook it in 3.5, 4 minutes on, you know, on a fast boil with a little tiny bit of water and a tiny bit of butter, right? Because they're all off the cob and they're literally beautiful, really good. So what I've done over here, this has been cooking just in a little bit of, tiny bit of water and a little bit of butter for about 5 minutes, so they're all nice, sweet and cooked. I've done my version of this, basically, and what I like to do, instead of like cooking it with the cream, my personal opinion is that butter, which is a major ingredient, is sweet, and the sweet corn is really sweet, and it all starts getting a little bit too heavy and a bit too sweet. So what I like to do is get a fresh red chilli, right? These aren't particularly strong, right? I just take the top half, into a food processor, just blitz it up a little bit. My personal opinion is that little bit of spice. I mean, for instance, sweet corn and chilli works really, really well together anyway, so they're good friends. But to get a little bit of spice with all that sweetness is really, really good. So I'm just going to literally pour the sweet corn into the machine, like that. A good pinch of salt. And what I like to use is 2 heaped tablespoons of creme fraiche. You could, of course, use sour cream or even double cream. And I don't want to put too much cream in there. And I'm going to just blitz it. And then what I want to do is just take about that much butter. And I want to enrich it with the butter. So there's about 2 tablespoons of butter there. Pop that in. Right, so let's have a look at that. So we'll have a little taste, and there you go, that's the pureed corn. Oh my God, that is so, so good, but I should have put more chilli in it. Where's that chilli? Right, this is, now listen, I love chilli, so. And now, when I put the chilli in, I'm not like looking for a massive, hot chilli smack round the head. I think about it, that lovely, sweet, corny flavour with a tiny hint of heat is really, really good. All right, let's have a little taste. Really good. Tiny bit more salt, good pinch of pepper, little blast. And that, if you do that on Christmas Day, as a kind of unconventional English but very American sort of veg side, that is beautiful. Cream corn done this way is absolutely genius. Look at that. Put it in an old English dish. And I tell you what, even if you do it in a non-Christmas time of the year, that sort of with some grilled chicken, oh, so good. And I would just serve it at the table with a little knob of butter. And probably, if I was being a little bit camp, just put a little bit of chopped chilli on the top, and that'll be beautiful. Right, I've got a few little extras that you might want to get into. You can do this the day before, or even the day before Christmas Eve. Now, listen, of course I know how to make sweet short crust pastry. Yes, you know, half fat to flour, this, that and the other, rub it, all that. if you go to good supermarkets these days, they make really quite good all-butter short crust pastry. So why, in the most stressful time of the year, think about making your own unless you're good at multitasking a million things? So what I'd like to do is just get some of that, roll it out, just use like a glass to cut these out into little circles, right? And you get little bits like that, nice. And then these really cheap, non-stick, sort of jam tart sort of moulds, you can just push it in like that. Even if it overhangs the side a little bit, don't worry about it. Just push them in. You could make your own mince pie filling, which is delicious. Again, that involves time, and it's great if you can get your mum or your nan or something to do it, because they've always got the good recipes. But what I do is I go and buy a posh jar of mincemeat, and then I like to sort of just tweak it up a bit. And there's a few things that I just love at Christmas that I really like to have in my mince pies, which, you know, generally they don't have in them already. And those things are pecan nuts, which are just brilliant, and stem ginger, which just seems to make everything taste really, really Christmassy, and a little bit of extra orange zest, just so it tastes really fresh and lovely. So you can see I've just lined these moulds here with the pastry. Dead simple. I like them quite rustic. If you want to kind of get all kind of camp about things, of course, you can just get your 2 fingers and this bit here, and you can just sort of push them like that at the sides, right? And that makes them sort of a little bit more posh, or you can use 2 forks. But to tell you the truth, I don't bother, because it's more time that I haven't got. Now, stem ginger. A few nice balls. I'm just going to slice these up, and that'll just give it a little extra kick and a little bit of heat, which will be delicious. Right, so literally a couple of thumb-sized pieces like that. And then I've got some pecan nuts, just a little handful. And I don't know what it is about pecan nuts. I mean, I guess pecan pie, I'm not sure. Sort of those lovely ice creams with the pecan brittle inside. Pecans just seem to, I don't know, they're one of my favourite nuts, actually. They really are good. I'm just going to chop them up reasonably fine with the ginger. And then I'm going to just grate in a little bit of orange zest. Just a little bit. Again, we don't want the white stuff because that's bitter. Just the nice fragrant orange stuff. And then I've got some nutmeg here, which is sort of just a lovely old spice. Just a little few rubs in there. You won't believe the sort of little difference it'll make. It'll give it a sort of real sort of savoury, sweet flavour. So here's my mincemeat that I've bought. Now, this is just good quality mincemeat from the supermarket. What I'm going to do is just sweep this into here. And already you can see it's just going to give it a little bit more sort of bulk. And don't forget, you know, even if you make your own mincemeat, as soon as it kind of hits that mixture, everything kind of becomes soft. Even the nuts become soft, you know, softish. So to put nice, crunchy, fresh nuts into the mix and then cook it straight away, you're going to feel that when you eat it. It's going to be soft and crunched, and it's going to be much nicer, I think. So there you go. The only thing I can think about doing to give it a little bit of an edge is a little swig of the old brandy. So let's just stir that brandy in, and that'll be delicious. Now, all I want to do is be quite generous. Put a nice spoon in there, just like that. That much. Now, you can do a whole bunch of trays of these, and you can even freeze them, which is quite good. But I want to make them fresh today, because they're so damn easy. And just by tweaking the mix and buying the pre-bought pastry, good pre-bought pastry, you know, the results are damn good. And if I tell everyone that I made everything on my own, they'll absolutely believe me, because it will taste fantastic. And most importantly, the pastry, if you cook it fresh, is going to be really brittle and crumbly and lovely. There you go. Right, so all I'm going to do now is put a little hat on these. I've whisked up an egg. You know, just get a brush and go around the sides here. And what I'm going to do is make a little hat to go on top. And actually, last year, when I did mince pies, we made a little bit of meringue. And instead of putting pastry on the top, we put a tiny bit of meringue and baked it in the oven. And that made a bit of a change. It's pretty delicious. Now, you can just put the pastry straight on top, but what I want to do is just use like a bottle lid or something like that, just to take the middle bit out. And what's nice then is you can kind of see the lovely filling inside. And I'm just going to push that into my mince pies. You can be quite rustic about it. You can pinch it, do what you want. And my mum, when she always did it, they were never like prim and proper and sort of neat. They're always just deliciously rustic. So literally put it over like that. And when they come out of the oven, nice and hot, what I'll do is I'll just sprinkle icing sugar over the top. Last year when I fed mince pies to my family, my nan's boyfriend, I gave him one and I put a little bit of holly on top and he ate it and nearly choked to death. So don't do that. So there you go. The last one, just pinch them around, almost push them down the rim, like that. You wait till they come out of the oven, they'll look absolutely fantastic. There you go. Beautiful mince pies, tweaked a little bit with the old pecans, the ginger and the orange zest, extra swig of brandy because we like it. And we'll cook those at 180 until the pastry's gone really beautifully gold and the inside's just sort of blipping away, nice and cooked. So there you go. Nice little tweak on some mince pies. Don't forget to get some spare presents for people that you forget. It always happens. It always happens. I mean, things like bottles of nice wine, CDs, some kids' toys. You'll love it. Next time you do Bucks Fizz at Christmas, you know, champagne and orange juice, right? Try doing it with clementine juice, and you can use champagne or Prosecco, the Italian version. Very nice. Even better, actually. Indigestion tablets. Ugh. Make sure you've got loads and loads of spare batteries for all those kids' toys because you know you're going to get caught out and the kids will be crying. And don't forget that little poxy little screwdriver that you've never got. The little one. Phillips, right? Order your turkey about 3 weeks before Christmas Day, otherwise you'll get left with a ropey one. To give yourself more room in your fridge, keep all your booze, water, wine, shampoos, even prepped vegetables all covered up nicely. Keep them outside because normally it's freezing blimmin' cold at Christmas, isn't it? Do a big count up on your plates, cutlery, glasses, all that sort of stuff, just in case you're a few short and then you get caught out and it all goes to pot on the big day. A week before Christmas, get all your heavy stuff, water, beers, more beers, all your sort of fruit and sort of heavy veg and stuff like that, week before. On Christmas Day, when your kids start opening the toys, just so you can do a thank you card to the person that sent it, rip off a bit of the box it came in, or put it down on a note bit of paper, and then you can do your thank you cards, because we always forget, don't we?